Alrighty, we are live. It's new comic book day, night live here, live from the Cartoonist Kayfabe ringside seats. We are live today with my co-hosts Manny and Rick, and our special guests Jaime Hernandez and Katie Skelly. What's up, y'all?
Hi.
Hey, hello. All right, we're so happy you guys have joined us, and we're going to start today like we start every month. We're going to do a quick round of plugs from our hosts. We're going to start over with Rick Lopez. What you up to, buddy? How's the power coming?
Hey everyone, Rick Lopez. You could find me on Instagram at Doomdazed. I'm currently plugging through my series, The Power. It's a 4-issue series about a boy creating a comic, only to discover a realm beyond space and time within his own mind. So the 3rd issue is up for pre-order right now. I'm finishing coloring the very last page, and then I'm going to send it off either tonight or tomorrow. I'm super close to sending it off to the printer. It's a lot of psychedelic imagery, fourth wall breaks, cool double page spreads. So just getting ready to put that out. And then still on Next Panel Press, I do my series Cosmic Cat. Right now we're going through Cosmo Dog. If you've been paying attention, you'll know why. I'm about 60 strips into that one. So if you go on to Next Panel Press, you could go through all of our story highlights and you can read a ton of comics for free on there from over a dozen different artists. And catch me on there and grab issue 3 of The Power because it's gonna blow your mind.
Nice, dude. Thank you, Rick. All right, heading over to Manny. What's up, buddy?
What's up, guys? I've been, you know me, every week I do episodes of the Comic Lounge, so you can catch me doing that podcast. I've also got a story in the brand new issue of Relic Hunter. There we go. Adam's holding the copy of Relic Hunter up now, so there we go. So is Eli. Put out by Cosmic Lion. I have a backup in issue 1 that was illustrated by Rick, and I'm super stoked to finally have that out in print and to see what it's going to look like when I get my copy. So that's been exciting, and excited to be here. And I'm writing the ongoing issue 2 storyline with Adam too, so you can catch that being published through Next Panel Press as well. And hopefully we'll have issue 2 out sometime sooner than later. So that's what I got.
Hell yeah. All right, as for me, Cosmic Lion Productions is heading down to Heroes Con next week. Nice. I got a new collection of my old junk coming out, and even new junk. The Cosmic Lion primer that I just edited up and sent off for a speedy print at Comics Wellspring. So that should be ready. I'm heading down there with Kevin Anthony Catalan, Boy Genius, and his book, which is here in the stack somewhere. Space Knights, of course. Awesome. And then we're still working on Ghost Agents. We have a new Kickstarter starting tomorrow morning, so got to get on that one. Another treasury sized on newsprint, so that's going to be huge. All right, sweet. Plugs are done, and now we can get into the meat of the operation. All right, so we're going to head over to Rick Lopez to get the questions started. What up, Rick?
Thank you again so much, you two. I'm super stoked. I again, like when I was at the Permanent Damage show, I had no idea that Katie was going to be there, let alone Jaime. So like that was such a crazy surprise because like where you guys were tabled, because like when I come in, I'm looking for Eli and Adam, and I like turn the corner right where you guys were out looking for them, like totally past you. So that was pretty funny. But man, I have a million questions, so I'm gonna try and be fair to everyone and like go one at a time. But okay. So I'm just gonna start. I really want to know, Katie, about this CXC prize. I really want to know like what that was all about. Like obviously it impacted you so much, and I'd really love to hear about that,
Oh yeah.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Well, CXC, it was the first year for CXC, which is Cartoon Crossroads Columbus, which is a really great show that the late Tom Spurgeon was working on. And sorry, my cat just jumped on the table. And they invited me to come out as a special guest. I think it was like maybe my first time being a special guest at a show. I'd only been doing comics at that point for like 5 or 6 years. So that felt like so major. I was like, oh my God, Katie, like you've made it, you're a special guest. Like, you know, things are really people are gonna recognize you on the bus. Like it's gonna be a big deal. No, but like it just felt really good to have that. So I was already so excited to like be a special guest at a show. And then I was just, you know, minding my business, tabling, and Tom started like making a speech in the middle of the floor. And I was like, that's totally like Tommy, that's his thing, like sounds about right. But then he like stopped and gave me this huge check and gave me this like beautiful glass award. And I got the Emerging Artist Prize, and I was the first person to get it. And they've subsequently given it out every year since, which is amazing. It was a big $7,000 check from Jeff Smith and his wife, Vijaya, who are amazing. And they do so much for Columbus. They do so much for comics. So it was super meaningful. And it just like, I feel like things actually really did change for me at that point. Like it felt like this thing that I really enjoyed doing was starting to become viable, and nothing has really gone back to the way that it was before that. Like I was able to like start working with Fantagraphics. I was able to start doing more projects. People started recognizing my work more. And yeah, it was so major. And I'm still super grateful to this day. I have my little award out on the shelf, you know? So yeah, it was really cool.
That's so awesome. Like that's seriously like it's super inspiring for sure. And like, cause I know you've been working on comics for such a long time, you know?
Yeah.
And just, you know, I'm gonna, man, cause I don't want to like take so much. I know we all got a million questions, so I'll stop right there for my first question, and I'll pass it on to either Manny or Eli. But thank you, Katie. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Rick. All right, we'll head over to Manny. What you got, buddy?
All right, so you Katie, you mentioned how the CXC award changed a lot of things for you, but can you talk about like what creating was before that? Like what was your plan before you got that award? Like did you have something different in mind, or
That's a great question. I like, do I look like a guy with a plan? That's how I always feel. Like
okay.
I don't have a plan. I feel like I'm constantly just kind of winging it and just working on things that I find interesting, and working on things that I feel like are going to like communicate very directly. I know that's an abstract way of putting it, but to be honest, I didn't see myself working with Marvel or DC. You know, I wanted to tell my own
Right.
stories. And to that point, I was like, Fantagraphics, like never. It'll be so cute, like when I can, you know, work with like a publisher that's a little bit smaller, and like that'll be it. And you know, I'm so happy to like have that. But then after that, you know, even like the day that I was getting the prize, it was like Eric Reynolds from Fantagraphics was there, Jaime was there, like that really kind of opened me up to this other world of comics publishing that was a little bit more professional, and you know, you had more visibility. And also the artists on that roster, I was like, holy shit, like, so you mean I'm going to be like publishing at the same place as like Jaime and like Nina Bunjevec and all of these artists that I really admired. And it just, you know, that really like opened things up for me. It just felt so cool. And it made me more confident in what I was doing, because to that point, you know, I don't feel like I was really pushing myself. I feel like I was making things that I thought were interesting, but I didn't feel like I was making things that really spoke to what I wanted to do. And a lot of that has to do with like feeling embarrassed in your own projects sometimes, where you're just like, oh my God, if I put this out, like everyone's going to think I'm the biggest dumbass in the world. And like, I don't know how to get these drawings to like look like how I want them. And I don't know, maybe I should just stop doing that. But once that happened, I was like, no, you literally have 7,000 reasons why you need to continue doing this. And like, people want you to do this. And it was really like, after that, it was a matter of figuring out, okay, how do I do this so that I'm enjoying what I'm making and I can sustain myself and keep doing it, you know? So it, in a way, it made things more serious, but it also made me kind of double down on myself and be like, what you're doing is like working, keep doing it. But I don't know what the end goal is, you know. I'm just always doing stuff. To be honest, when I stop and really think about it, that's when I want to not do it anymore. So I just don't really think very much.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Manny.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'll go over to you, Jaime. I'm gonna say like what's interesting, we're talking about here how like we're having these first moments where like your creative process changes, or you're like, the creation will never be the same from this point. Do you remember that point for you and your bros? Do you remember like that time? I remember I interviewed Diana Schutz, and she mentioned like your guys' first San Diego Comic-Con was this like explosionary moment for you. Do you feel like that was that moment for you guys, or was there another moment that you remember where you felt like, okay, it's all different now?
Basically, when we did our first, when we self published our black and white,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I've made it. After this, everything is just business,
Yeah.
But yeah, I never found it as a stepping stool. I found it as we did a comic. I'm here. I've arrived. Even if I have 2 fans, which at the time we had 0 fans. But yeah, it was just a good feeling that we actually got something done, and that was and it was like proof of us existing, kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's never like, you do that first one and then you have a million fans. It's that thing of you just keep creating because you love it. And then the consistency brings the fan base out.
Yeah. I mean, lucky for us. I mean, but yeah, I just wanted to do this, and I had to think about the success and the money after the fact.
Wait, there's money in this?
Allegedly.
Yeah. Do you remember that first San Diego Comic-Con that maybe she was talking about?
The
first one that you were like maybe at the Fantagraphics booth.
It was 82, and we were premiering the first issue, the first Fantagraphics issue. Yeah. And we'd never been to a show that size. We used to go to small ones in LA.
Yeah.
But going to that one, it was huge, and we had a comic, and it was kind of like nobody's going to care we're there, but we care. And, and so yeah, and it was kind of fun because those were the days all Gary Groth's enemies were still talking to him. People like Chris Claremont and Frank Miller, where everyone was still talking before everyone gave up on each other. So I got to meet a lot of those people. Like they said, we hear you have a new comic out, and Gary's like, yeah, well, you want a copy? And he was giving them to all these professionals, and we were just kind of standing there like, okay.
Was there someone in particular, maybe that was a guest where you were like, oh my God, we gotta like get our book? Because I feel like people look to you like that. They're like, oh my God, I gotta get my book to Jaime or something like that. Was there someone that you felt like?
No, because I mean, I had a lot of heroes there, a lot of old cartoonists and comic people there, but I kind of was like, I'm here to be their fan. I don't need them to see my stuff, because what if right in my face they don't care, and hurt my feelings. But no, like I said, I was there to be their fan, meeting someone like Jack Kirby or something,
Oh yeah. So you didn't meet him, or?
I did meet him. I can't remember. I don't remember if I met him at that first one, but later, eventually I did. Because, he lived in Southern California.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So he was also showing up to the local stuff. And that was pretty cool. That was just like, hey, I got to, and those were the days in the San Diego show where all the old professionals walked the floor. That it was safe. And you could just go, oh, there's Gil Kane, oh, there's this person, that person. And it was just kind of cool that there they are, and that was fun for us. It was just like, hey, I could do this forever.
And you have been.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you for that. All right, we're gonna go back to Rick here.
Okay. Thank you again, Jaime. Thank you for coming on. I got a million questions. So this space zine that that you all had no, is it the space zine I want to ask about first? Yeah, let's just go with the space zine first. Gilbert had saw, it was a space zine, Gilbert had saw something and you guys ended up submitting to it.
Wait, what? I'm not sure I know what you're talking about.
I heard you quoting it as a space zine.
What, our comic?
No. Early on, very early on, when I think you see an ad in the back of it to where you can submit work. You could submit your pages and we'll print it for you. It's called like Space Zine.
It was, let's see, I'm trying to think. I saw an ad in the Comics Buyer's Guide.
In the Comics Buyer's Guide, that's right.
Yeah, but it was called it had a different name, like they moved the names around after a while. But yeah, and it was just a little trade newspaper that had ads for people selling collections and things like that. And my brothers Mario and Gilbert were busy trying to put together their own like graphic novel before you called it graphic novel,
right?
And I was on my own, so I was drawing my own stuff. And I remember seeing an ad for a guy who did a thing called
was that the Fandom Circus?
Fandom Circus, yeah.
Okay.
And I saw an ad, and I sent for the copy of the first issue, and then I just said, I'm just going to send him a story. I mean, it seems really easy to be published. I'm not going to get paid, but this just seemed a cool way just to get my stuff out there. And so I contacted the guy, and he was just like, sure, we're going to do a second issue. We'll see what you got. And I remember doing a 4-pager and then sending it in. And he is like, oh, cool. Okay, we'll publish this, Anyway, and that was my first, I was 17. I just graduated high school, and I was ready, man.
But so you were already making comics on your own though, right? Just ones for fun that you weren't printing out and giving to people or selling or anything like that? Or how did that, because that's what I was going to lead up to. Like, how did that come about? Like, how did you go from making? How did you go into making? Because I get you all three of you are so avid at reading, and they're like looking into all this crazy stuff and showing you new things. And it's like, when did it come into where you were making though? When did that start?
Well, we were drawing for ourselves since we were like little kids,
right?
And my brother, I came fourth in line, so I just copied what my brothers did, and they had they started to create their own characters and do little comics of them, and so I did too. But I didn't understand it, but I want to have a superhero of my own, and and just doing that for myself. And by my teenage years, we're still doing it, and mostly Gilbert and I. It used to be the whole family did it. 6 kids, we all drew, but Gilbert and I were the only ones who kind of stuck with it, and we were still drawing comics, and we just thought one day we're gonna be able to do comics. We didn't know how or anything like that, how to pitch it or anything, but so we were doing it for ourselves and learning on the way, they use real art board, and artists they use pen and ink and stuff like that, and and I just started teaching myself because I thought that was the way it was supposed to be. I never saw anybody do a lesson on how to do comics or anything like that. We had nothing like that where I lived. You had like the Kubert School and I think at the time the Buscema School. But it was like, I don't even know where these things are. I don't even, what town is that they're at? I was so small town, and so we kind of taught ourselves. I was just talked to Gilbert about it, and he was learning how to ink himself and stuff like that. And so we started doing our own little comics for ourselves, and hoping one day we'd get printed like I did that first one, and and then it wasn't until Mario came over and goes, "What's this? What you guys been doing?" Because he was had a family and stuff, and so he had stopped drawing for a long time, and he never saw us that we kept continuing. And so that was when he said, "Hey, why don't we do our own?" And then I just like,
right.
we are.
So were those pages that you had done, so were you the first one to get something printed then?
I think I had something before Gilbert, but I remember we were sending little images to the comics journal and the buyer's guide. We would just send a little drawing of a Marvel character or something, and they would print it in their magazines. So I mean, if you want to say that's being published, there was that. Right. There was that. But my story, I think, was the first of us getting, so 77. Yeah. And then he started to do his own stories, and he would just try to hunt down any fanzine that was out there that was saying, "Oh, we'll take art commissions, or we'll take art to put in our magazine." And that was basically how we did it. I mean, it was just really simple and naive almost, because there was not a market for artists who wanted to do their own thing. There was no alternative market at the time, But
I'm not sure how long you had been, so because you said you're 17 when you did those pages. I'm not sure how long you stayed home after that, but I was wondering, even for both of you even, but I'm wondering, what was your family like, your parents or your mom, your dad, were they supportive at all of what you guys were doing? Because I know like there's times where you have to hide like material, but were they like giving you shit for drawing,
No,
both of you, I'm curious.
No, mom grew up a comic fan. That's how we got it.
Okay.
So she was just, it was almost like she was happy we got jobs.
Right.
She was just like, "I'm just happy you found a job. That's all." Because when my dad died when I was little, when we started to become teenagers, there was 5 boys, growing up, and mom told me years later, she just goes, "I was so scared you guys were going to get in trouble. Just go out and get in trouble." And I couldn't keep up. She couldn't keep up with 5 boys being out all the time. And, I was never looking for trouble. But, so she just goes, "I just hope they turn out okay." That's all she could wish for. But yeah. So,
okay, that's awesome. I'd always wondered.
Yeah, so we did comics whether someone let us or not.
Yeah, of course. And then that's what and then same for you, Katie. Like I would love to know, like, same thing, because I know you come from an Italian family as well. I know, like, they might give you shit. That's why I was asking Jaime. I'm like, there's a chance like his parents were like, "What are you doing, dude?"
Yeah, they don't like it. They kind of still don't like it, but at this point, I mean, what are you
Yeah.
gonna do? But I think by now, when I got that prize, that was major, and I really felt like, what's she doing? Oh, sorry, my cat's trying to like destroy everything.
It's all good.
She when I got that prize, they thought that was cool for sure. They were like, oh wow, okay, that's something. But they still kind of like see it as like prolonged hobby. And it doesn't really matter, what other people's perception of what I'm doing is, because I feel like
Right.
I'm still forming a perception of it. Like it changes all the time. But yeah, as a kid, they were definitely not, they were like encouraging that like I was drawing and stuff, but they didn't see it as like a viable career or anything like that. And they didn't go to college. My sister and I were the first generation in our family to go to college. And so I really like just did not want to disappoint them. I didn't want to study art. I wanted to like be a serious like professional person, and just I always kind of thought like, but I'll always have comics with me. Like I'll always do them, but I just need to have something that I can put a life together around. And so I studied art history because I wanted to work in museums, because I was like, if I'm not really making art all the time, I want to be talking about art all the time. I want to be surrounded by art. So that was the plan, and it's worked. I've been like an arts marketing professional for the last 15 years, which has been amazing. And I've worked with really great institutions, and I work for a really great one now. So I'm super lucky. But yeah, not like discouraging, but just sort of like unimpressed, I would say.
All
Which
right.
I think is like fair.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, thank you too for now. I have tons more, but I'll pass it on. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you, Jaime.
Sure.
I feel like for some parents, you could be like Jim Morrison or like the biggest actor or whatever, and they'll still be like, can't you get a real job like your brother?
Yeah. And also, like, at the end of the day, do you really want your parents to like think you're cool? Like that feels uncool.
I guess if I don't know, I do. I do. I'll say yes, but it's like you gotta have a different type of parents, I guess. We'll head over to Manny now.
Katie, going off of what Jamie kind of talked about, like, when he first started creating, when did you first start creating comics? Like as a kid, like when did you know this was something you were going to love for the rest of your life?
My dad ran a newsstand in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, and he would bring home comics all the time. Like he would bring home like Harvey comics and things like that. And it was a big part of how I learned how to read. So comics, the language of comics is kind of like ingrained in me. It's like embedded into my head. Like when I think of a story, I think of it in comics, even though I love illustration, I love film, but I never think of things in those terms. I think just because it hit me at such a young age, it became a big part of the framework through which I see the world and through which I kind of understand my own experiences, which is pretty cool, I think. So when I was little, I didn't feel super confident in my drawing, because you'd see like the Harvey comics and be like, oh my god, Casper is so cute, like I can't draw like that. But what I would do is I would cut stuff out, and like fumetti, like Italian comics, I would like paste it and then like draw like a word balloon, and just figure out like how do you get from like a panel to a panel, and really learning like little nitty gritty things like that, even though I wasn't super confident in my drawing ability. My older sister is like an amazing artist, or she was at that time. I don't know what she's up to now in terms of drawing, but we would make like little, almost like zines for each other. And I was obsessed with dogs. So I'd like cut a dog out of like a magazine and like do a little word balloon for like what the dog was thinking and stuff like that. So I feel like just forever, like since I was literate, I was into comics, and like even pre-literacy.
That's cool. The thing about cutting out figures, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before.
I think it can still be a really fun exercise, especially if you want to draw like a car or something. Just cut it out and paste it in. Like, who's gonna know?
It's like you were exploring layouts before really knowing what they were.
Truly.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Okay, all right, sorry, buddy. I got one more here, and then we're gonna open it up to the crew here. For me, one of my favorite things about comics and I guess in the world is music and comics and the way they interplay. I see it a lot in Love and Rockets, clearly with the the image that is most well known is the band. Adam's got the shirt on right now, I saw. And I guess I haven't read as many of your books, Katie, to know if music spends or plays that big a role as well. But to you both, what does music mean to you guys, and how have you woven it into your comic book work?
Well, my biggest, I guess you could say my biggest inspirations for being creative was comics, movie and TV, real life, just hanging out on the street kind of thing, and music. Those were the four things that drove me.
Yeah.
I tried to be in bands and stuff like that, but I was a better cartoonist than I was a
What did you play?
I played bass. I played bass because everyone around me wanted to play guitar. And I said, I'm going to be in a band before any of you guys, because you're all going to be guitarists looking for a band. Sure enough, I was first of my friends to get in a band.
Nice.
Anyway.
What were you guys listening to back then? Like when you were hanging out on the street, getting these formative memories.
Yeah. Well, let's see. In the late 70s, I got into the punk scene. Punk got big, and it came to LA, as well as, New York and London and everywhere else. And so that was a big deal for me. It changed my life. It was that perfect, I was 18 and ready for the world kind of thing, And so everybody has their moment, growing up where they either go to college and college is their best years ever, or this or that. Mine was punk. I had that was the first time I saw big city life. We lived about an hour from LA, and we used to go into LA to see bands. That was new for me because I grew up in stadium rock, in the 70s.
Yeah.
I would see bands, in big venues where the band was this big, where you could see them. So punk was the first time I guess you could say, part of movement, and that helped me do my comics. It helped me with the DIY thing of like, I don't care what you think, I'm going to do this anyway. That kind of, so music. And I mean, and music goes way back. I was 4 years old when the Beatles came over. So the big wave of 60s music and what it became and what it turned into over the decades.
Watching on Ed Sullivan memory.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I used to brag that to people that I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. And then one day my oldest brother Mario goes, "Oh, wait a minute. No, we saw the rerun." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Because I wanted to watch Daniel Boone." So we didn't watch the Beatles. And I was like, "You're lucky I was little, because I didn't remember that."
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is there another show too, or something that you guys drove into LA and you saw a concert and you were like, oh my God. And then you got ideas for your book and you went home and drew or something. And
Sure. But overall for me, it was more the scene and the way people dressed and stuff. So my characters that I was creating started to dress like that, started to do, because I always just drew what I knew. And that was a good thing to copy. you know, so yeah, going to see LA bands when they were, you know, small town, you know, that was fun. You know, that was a big deal for me. And yeah, and then, you know, you go, I can do this. I'm going to do it on myself, you know.
Yeah.
That was fun.
He's also seen like every show that like you would be jealous of. Like if Roxy Music comes on the radio, it's like, oh, I saw them. Or like the Clash, like, yeah, I saw them too. The Go-Go's.
I was
Like
waiting for some
literally
name
everyone.
drops, but yeah.
Yeah.
From
What
that
about-
time.
From that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Katie? Did you grow up here or?
No, I'm from Pennsylvania originally. So I grew up in Pennsylvania and then I lived in New York for 13 years and I just moved out here 2 years ago. And I really, really love it here. I feel like I can really be myself in LA, which rules. Like it's the best place for me. But when I was growing up, like, so around like 97, that was when all of this like electronic music was kind of crossing over. It still wasn't like huge, but it was like there. And I remember somebody giving me like a Daft Punk CD in 6th grade. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I like know this from the radio. And I loved it. It like completely opened my eyes. And I started getting into like the Chemical Brothers, Aphex Twin, Fatboy Slim, and then, you know, like staying up late to like watch the Prodigy video on MTV and stuff like that. Like that was so major. And it was also really cool because a lot of these groups were committed to like a certain sense of anonymity. So they would, you know, Daft Punk would like wear the helmets and like Aphex Twin wears like a bear costume or something. And so it was kind of like, oh, like I'm staying up late and like I'm watching anime, and then after that, like I'm gonna see Aphex Twin dress up like a weird bear and like punch somebody, and just it all kind of like felt like it was coming together. Like you don't necessarily like in this way that almost predates the internet. It's like you don't have to necessarily be yourself to like sell your record. You can kind of create this whole other thing around it, and the music is weird and esoteric and like makes me feel insane when I listen to it. It was all just kind of like this perfect blend of things that made me want to make art. And like I also didn't really know anybody else who was like super into that music, so it felt like this secret that I had. And now years later I think back and I'm like, everything that like I want to reference in my art is coming from that place of like 1997. It was such a good year.
I agree. Feel like I was in my
film, great year for music, great year for art, like visual arts. That was just major. And it was also like that, I feel like is maybe the last time that I can point to a time period that felt transgressive, like outwardly, you know, because it wasn't just like music, it was also like, you know, the Saatchi artists and like all of this weird contemporary like conceptual art coming out and mainstream America like freaking out. I feel like it's the last time we had like righteous outrage about like conceptual art. Like when is that going to happen again, you know?
Yes, we got to create the movement ourselves.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys so much. You know, we need to make a playlist here. You guys need to make a playlist that's like this fusion of punk and electronica.
Totally.
A fun creating playlist. All right, so that's 2 rounds of our hosts. So we're gonna open it up, and of course the hosts. Oh, Rick's like, I got only 50 more questions. But let's hit up the guys who got their hands up right now. We'll hit up Tony Farrow first, and then we'll hit up Jerome. And if y'all have questions or want to chat with Jaime and Katie, either raise your hand or put a message in the chat, and then we'll get to you. We got 2 questions in the chat on Facebook I'm gonna get to. And 2 things from the chat here. Ian M said he saw Aphex Twin in 97 and that it was wild. And Lee says morning from Malaysia.
How does it feel to be God's favorite is what I want to know. Like you saw Aphex Twin in 97.
I
Well,
Aphex I saw Aphex Twin. I saw Aphex Twin twice, and the first one he was DJing opening for Bjork.
Wow.
And the second time, and so that one, it was just like loud, clangy stuff. But the second time he was opening, I think it was like a double bill with Primal Scream. And Kevin Shields from My Bloody Valentine playing guitar for Primal Scream on the Accelerator tour.
Katie's mind is blown.
I'm gonna
So, yeah,
body
and
snatch you. Like, what the hell?
And that was what you were saying about the teddy bears. There were 3 guys dressed in those teddy bear suits with his face on front, and they were just beating the shit out of each other on stage. And that's all they did for an hour. Aphex Twin came out, and there was a sofa on stage. He lay down on the sofa, put a blanket over him, and he just played live on the laptop, and it was absolutely wild. And then the Bears fought. Very cool show. Very, very cool.
I'm so glad you got to see that. That is so sick.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. He was
good.
in
It was
New
good.
York. He
Well,
did
I
like, a few last shows in New York, but the tickets were like $400. I was just like, I can't.
Oh, these are
At that time,
$20 tickets. $20.
Oh my God.
No, but like I was like 21, 22. So at that point, so it was very easy to be in the city and see a show.
There you go. Oh
Yeah.
man, good for you. That's so cool.
I have a question, but I'll come back for it though. So
All right, Ian, I'll put you in after. Let's see. I think we have team. All right, so we'll go Tony, Jerome, Team Peanut Butter, Ian, and then we'll head back to Rick, and then we'll get everyone else. All right, Tony, what's up, man?
Yeah, so my train of thought has completely been derailed because of all the conversation. But yes, 1997. We could talk about that all day, so I'm not going to even get in that. That was the year that my band released our first single, and everything that she said, 100% true. It was an incredible year.
You gotta go back.
Yeah, but I wanted to go back 10 years earlier to 1987, which was the year that I discovered punk rock, and also the year that I discovered Love and Rockets. And I just trying not to like fanboy out too bad. But I just got to say to Jaime that you kind of like saved my life in a way, because I was like I've been a big comic book fan my whole life, and I was just starting to get out of comic books at that point. I was starting to feel like it's like high school, I just like kid stuff. And like, but then I discovered Love and Rockets, and I was getting the punk rock at that time, and I was like, wait, you can be into punk rock and comics at the same time. It's like, it's unheard of. And that just like totally just changed the trajectory of my life, and that's like, so for ever since then, it's like, that's been my life, is like just this making punk rock and making comics. And that's, that's all I want to do. And so you're somehow responsible for that, whether you want to may not be something you want to take responsibility for, but
I'll take credit.
All right. But that is, basically that's really all. I just needed to get that off my chest. I don't actually have a question. I just felt like I had to say that to thank you for everything that you did. I've been a fan for like I said, since 1987, and I just love everything. I just love your work so much, and thank you for doing everything you do.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. So I'll let somebody who has an actual question go on. I just need to get that off my chest, but thanks.
Respect, Tony. Tony is an amazing artist and creator himself. Beautiful comics, and I've never seen him like this before. So respect. All right, so we're gonna go over to Jerome. Jerome next. What up, man?
Hi, Jaime. Katie, thanks for coming out. And yeah, so Jaime, I just want to congratulate you for inspiring Tony to do what he does, because what he does, it's really, really cool. But just with that, I'm kind of the opposite. I found you guys pretty late, just through the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Like when they big up you guys, that's kind of how I found you. I was a Marvel zombie growing up, but what I found has just been like yeah, it changes what you think comics are, and specifically Katie, like your interviews, you have this different confidence that most artists don't have, right? It's a swag. You're bad, right? But and with your art style, I don't know what your influences are, but like with your art style, it's very clearly you, and the juxtaposition of what it looks like to what the story is. It's so like it right it breaks me. But so I'm not gonna maybe ask so much about both of your influences, because Jaime, I've heard you talk about like Dennis the Menace and things like that, like that, right? It's clear. But what, like, was there a certain piece of work, was there a certain time in your life that you decided to lean into how you are now, right? Like, not asking where your ideas come from, but like whenever you decide, when, like, let's say Katie, like whenever you decide, like, yeah, I'm gonna draw my eyes like this, I'm gonna draw my nose like this, and I'm gonna write something that's gonna be completely backwards of what everyone's gonna think. Like, when did you start leaning into that, like that, as an independent cartoonist, is trying to find your niche, and knowing when you pull back, and knowing when you lean into inspiration, or do you try to like veer away from certain things to not look the same as everybody else? Like how did you navigate that? How did, like, was there a certain time period? Was it just an age where you just said screw it, right? And you just did it the way that you wanted to do it? I don't know. I want to hear from from the highly confident pair of you, right? And Jaime, if you want to call your older brothers to brag about how you did it first, that's fine. I love it. I'm the youngest of three too, so.
Mine, I was drawing ever since I was like 4 years old, blah, blah, blah. By the time I was 16, I realized that I could draw whatever I wanted to. Meaning, like, whatever I put my mind to, I am capable to draw that. I can draw a car if I want to. I can draw a tractor. I can draw people, and I'm not saying the art was perfect, but I was just confident enough that I have the ability to draw anything I put my mind to. So that was a good point in my life where I had the confidence to continue, still nobody was seeing what I was doing. So I didn't have to worry about that. And then it was like, by the time I graduated high school, 17, and I was doing the little fanzine stuff. From that time between high school and adulthood, I just got my brain just went crazy about learning to storytell, and it took a while because I didn't know how to tell a story. I just did it as I went along, looking at an old Archie comic. I would just go, oh, this is what it is. They go from here to here to here to here, and that was all I knew. But there were certain little things that were just like coming to me, like that I was inspired by, say, a movie or a comic or just art in general. And then just hanging out with my friends and stuff, everything just started to come together. Why don't I do stories about this, about us hanging out? I know how to draw it, but yeah, it was, I don't know why, but I was lazy. I didn't have a job, I was just bumming with my friends, and then I'd go home and draw comics. But I was just really, really like, at that time, like, okay, all these comics I grew up with, why do I still like some of them? Some of them I don't like anymore, or I don't think they hold up, but some of them I do. Some artists really stick out to me. And a lot of them didn't have names, like I liked a few artists that drew Archie comics. I liked a few artists that did Dennis the Menace comics. I like these guys, but I didn't know who they were. But I remember learning, like teaching myself, like why do I like this guy? And I go back to him because we were looking at the same old comics we always had, just old stacks of comics. And I remember just going, I really like this one guy who does Archie. I like the guy who does Betty and Veronica, but I like this guy who does Archie better. And it was just like, why do I like this guy? Oh yeah, because I like the way he makes people stand. I like the way he makes them talk. I like the way he animates them kind of to the way they move, and they move you from panel to panel. And I was just started to learn all that stuff.
And you were how old when you were starting to think like this?
I would say 17 to 21,
Okay.
Where I was just like, why did I like this stuff? But I love this stuff, and I was going back to it and going, okay, every time I pick up this stack of Archie comics, I always pick out the ones I like first, to look at. And I would go, oh, and it's this one artist, and I like the way he tells a story. I like the, and it was just like that with a lot of things. Looking at old Marvel comics too, in DC comics, I had my favorite artists, and I'm sorry, this is dragging on, but but it was just like a magical time, where I was like I've never been obsessed before with actual like pursuing a vision. That was the first time I actually was like I want to draw comics like this. I want to draw comics like this. And also comics like a favorite movie or something, and because movie taught me a lot about storytelling, because it actually moves. And so putting that with comics together, you have to learn, like, okay, this art I've got to make the movements they're making, like say in a Godfather movie or something, I got to make that work with just lines on paper. And that was just like really a learning experience, because there were certain artists who did it better than others. And so it was just a mixture of all that. And like I was into, and I was doing the punk thing, and I was into rock and roll, and just everything around me, I was just observing. And I didn't know that I was doing that. I was just observing the way people acted, the way people were. And when I started put them in the comics, I knew exactly who they were, because I just observed, like the way friends talked, my brothers talked, or my mom and her sisters, the way they acted. And I just picked that up and made comics about it, basically, and the cool thing about comics was, especially doing your own comics, when we didn't want to work for a big company, we wanted to draw our own comics, you just made up your own rules. And that was what I liked about it. That's why you see, like in the early issues of Love and Rockets, you just see, I'll just draw a rocket ship, and then a dinosaur, and then some weird guy walking down the street, and that was just fun. And it was just like I don't care what people are going to think of this. This is just fun. And I'm glad that I stuck with that I just wanted to please myself more than anything. It wasn't until Love and Rockets took off, we started to have fans, that I started to think like, all right, we have to put up more issues. We have to put this on a regular basis. I had to think like a grown-up by then.
But as you were thinking as a grown-up, did you feel like you started getting jaded as a grown-up, or was the fun still there? Was there a time period where you're like you were just putting it out to put it out and it just didn't feel fun anymore? Because I don't get that sense.
Right.
It looks like some pages look faster than others, but they all look like you're grinning about something when you're doing it.
Right. Yeah. It's all the love is all still there. But the advantage of having a comic or regular comic is if that one didn't turn out as well, the next one will. I always looked at it that way, like this was a between issue. This one just kind of gave the information and not so much my real strengths. The next one will have that, so I would do that, and I'd be really proud of something that I just put everything into, and then I go, what am I going to do next? Okay, well, maybe it won't be so important an issue, but as long as I'm having fun, because if I don't have fun, it's no good. I don't want to do it anymore.
I think it would show, right? I think it would show on the page, but it doesn't, so that's good. And your cat's killing it in the back there.
She's having a blast.
Yeah.
Hi, Pig.
So I'm sorry I took up all your time.
No. What was the original question? I'm sorry. How did you developing a style?
What was was there a time period? Was what was the catalyst for you to lean into the way that you make the way that you make comics, the way that you write stories? Not so much the specific influences, but what was going on in here? Like when Jaime was saying how how he would look at things that he liked and was like, why do I like this?
Mm-hmm.
That I had to ask your age, because it doesn't seem like something that a 17-year-old kid would be saying.
Yeah, for sure.
What clicks? What's the mutant gene that just shoots out?
I do think some of it has to be genetic, right? Because it's to me, it's just it's so, for whatever reason, maybe I should go to therapy and figure it out, but it's for whatever reason, it's so important for me to communicate this way. I don't know what it is. I think it's just something in my soul, in my spirit, that feels like this is just what you're supposed to be doing. I don't experience that same confidence always. And so if you find something that makes you feel really confident, you're going to keep pursuing it. I think that was kind of my experience. But to me, I love comics. I've always been a reader of comics, and I started going to indie comic shows. And this was mid 2000s. And I was like, oh, cool. I can't wait to, check stuff out. I hope I find cool stuff. I used to read in Pulp magazine and all those wild Gen X comics I would get at the comic store. And I got there, and it was just walls and walls of guys in flannel shirts, and they were all selling autobio comics about how much they want to kill their girlfriend and stuff. And I was like, what the hell? What happened to comics? And I was just disappointed and sad. And I was I don't feel like this is what it is. And I don't feel like this is what it should be. And then going to the comic book store and still the mid 2000s, I feel like it was all about the memoir and the big confessional comic and true stories. And that's great. That absolutely has a place. But I was just what happened to fiction and weird shit? Where is it? I'm not seeing it. Where's genre? I'm just not inspired by what I'm seeing here. And I feel like that was when it really clicked. And I was just you're not just gonna get that. You have to make it. Somebody has to make it. So that was really it. I don't know. I just have this feeling in my gut that's if you want the world to look a certain way, you have to do it. You have to be the one to put the work into it. So yeah, it was just kind of like making a bet on yourself, and feeling like if I look stupid, I look stupid, but I would rather feel stupid and look stupid than like continue to see a world that I don't like.
Well, you've made quite a world in the pages, and it's very clearly you. I don't think anybody can look at a Katie Skelly book and be like, oh, who did that one? No, it's
Thank you. Thank you.
it's great, and like for both of your styles, that yes, they're different, but I like how it can be as clean or as minimal, or if you render on top of it, it could look great, but you don't have to. That's a level of cartooning that I think I don't know about everybody else, but I know I'm jealous of, and I try to steal, and I'd like to be able to bet on myself with that same level of like, get out of here, that punk rock rapper swag that that you guys got. But I don't want to take up too much more of the time, but that's great food for thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you as always, Jerome.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, let's head over to Peter, aka Team Peanut Butter. What up, buddy?
Hey, thanks so much, man. I actually have this question specifically for Jaime because I just did it. If someone draws something that you did as a photo reference, I know you actually don't use many photo references like ever in your work. How do you feel if someone does a drawing of yours and says like after Hernandez and has like a story moment that references your work? Are you like honored, or are you like, that kid could have done better and created his own world?
No,
How does that make you feel?
no, it's all good as long as they don't take credit, and like, I drew this. This is me,
That's the point that it annoys you, of course. Yeah.
But no, it's cool. It's like when someone tells me they want to put one of my images as a tattoo. It's like, well,
Yeah, right.
that's a big honor for me, because you're messing up your sacred skin with one of my drawings, But no, it's all good. It's all flattering. It's all, I'm just humble.
Oh yeah. What I specifically did is for a Batman Year One redraw, I made a fake newspaper strip called Bats and Rockets, and I drew Maggie as a female character interacting with Gordon. Yeah, just for 2 newspaper strips worth.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm learning how to draw, and I'm like in the maybe he shouldn't publish everything he draws level. So it's really cool to like study someone else's drawing, and I just learn a lot even if I don't publish like a redraw of someone's stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people have told me that that they don't like copying from other artists, that they think it's a sin, and I say, no, that's how you learn. You pick an artist you like, and you copy some of their stuff, and it rubs off on you, and later you don't draw like that person, but it helped you understand a lot of things,
Your drawings really have. It's probably the 7th time I've redrawn a drawing of yours, because like I'm just really bad at the female form. Like they come out as like ugly trapezoidal men when I try it. Before I did some redraws of your stuff. So. Well, thank you so much. My question's really short, but appreciate you.
Thank you, Peter. And you have done very well and made leaps and bounds since we started.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Next up, we did have Ian. I don't know where he went. Is he still here? He might have.
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry, I was just lowering my hand.
Okay.
So after Katie was talking, I just wanted a tiny anecdote. So I went to art school in the 90s, and I studied art history too. And the stuff you're talking about was a big topic then. One of the guys in my school, I was in Toronto. He took the train to New York, went to Museum of Modern Art, swallowed some paint pellets and puked on a Mondrian. And that got into the news. And one of the things was, the state of art in America is so bad that you have to puke on a painting to get it in the newspaper. Like nobody could care less in any other situation. And so he called it artistic vandalism. And, it's questionable because I like Mondrian, but I put a link to an unblocked thing in the chat if you're curious later, but it was a big scandal in Toronto in the 90s. But I have a question for Jaime. I've binged a lot of your stuff over the last 7 or 8 years, and I want to know a little bit about your writing process. And I don't know what you do at all, so my feeling is like your old stuff 40 years ago, maybe you sat down at the board and you just drew the whole comic. And I kind of feel like the stuff now, it's so complex, you're kind of shifting images and you got these rhythms. Is your pre-comic page process a lot bigger than it used to be? Is it not that much different? Or like what, before you actually start inking and drawing a page, how much process is there before you get there?
Well, there's a lot, but not a lot of thumbnails. You know, I don't do thumbnails because it's like, oh, I already drew that. Why would I want to draw that again? Lazy. But it in the beginning, it was always, you know, like you said, it was just like start drawing one panel and then you draw another panel and then see what the story's going to turn out like. Pretty soon, the characters started to take over. They started to write themselves. So I would start to write a dialogue with them. And that's how I would start a story. Keep the best stuff, take the rest out, you know, kind of thing. Now it's a loose script, but then by the time I put it on the page, I just edit the hell out of it. I'm just like erasing, changing panels, changing balloons. Maybe they should say that, maybe they should have said this in the panel before, you know, and I'm doing that a lot. And sometimes I can't go to bed till I've finished that idea, you know, like, because if I wake up in the morning and look at it, I won't know what the hell it is. You know, so there have been times where it's been like 1 o'clock and I'm like, I'm usually in bed by 11, but I have to finish this or else it will, you know, or else I won't remember, you know.
Would this all be on the page? Or are you, like you say, you're doing a script, you're just like writing dialogues on a page and inserting stuff?
I'm writing on a pad, you know, I'm writing, but
I know a lot of people who type their scripts, which I would have a hard time editing typed stuff myself.
Yeah, for me, the typewriter takes over and it starts to write for me. And so it's not me. So I try to write as loose, as natural as possible, because that'll help my characters seem real, you know. So that's important to me. Yeah, so I'm just the page is just a mess, you know. I can show you one. Sorry, here's one. Okay, all right, it's not that much a mess, but this is what a page looks like, and I've been working on this for a while, and it's talking heads. And I'm like, how many times can I draw them in different positions and in different settings? So, you know, by the time this is done, maybe this face won't be there anymore, you know? And so, yeah, it's why I could never be a teacher, because I couldn't explain to anyone that mess there. Only that it is a mess.
Well, what Jerome asked about both of you developing your style, like it feels like you evolved to your way of working as opposed to implemented some sort of artistic strategy. Like it's just your natural, the way you've evolved to this point, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how you what you think, but my stuff is just, I draw like me. I can't think of, I'm not drawing like anybody else, you know. And it's just became so natural, and I accepted it early on. You know?
Thank you so much. Thanks for hearing me out.
Sure.
Eli?
Yes, sir. I'm back. All right, thanks, Ian. Let's see. I guess we'll go to Dr. Ben, who said he couldn't get his hand up. Do you still have a question, Dr. B? Yeah,
Excellent. There it is.
there you go.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. For first of all, obviously, I guess this is really more a question for Jaime than for Katie, but also like I got to shout out like Thick Lines. Your podcast is like, fantastic. It's good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you and Sally. It's fantastic. It's always a fun show.
Thank you.
My question for Jaime is like, and maybe this is just my perception, right? But like in a lot of the issues of like Love and Rockets, where it was you and your brother, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times it would seem almost like it was like almost like two sides of the same coin, right? Like a lot of like, sometimes I'd see like a repeating theme between the two, even though obviously you're both on vastly different stories. I mean, Maggie and Hopi is entirely, is different. I'm getting all. My question is like, am I like crazy thinking that? Is that anything that you guys ever like worked on to like be like, this issue, I'm doing this. You want to try, like,
Yeah, yeah.
have a dialogue between your two stories as creators, or was it more?
A lot less than we do now. I mean, a lot less than. Wait, we talked more then. We
Okay.
talk less now. We just hope we're not going to step on each other's toes.
Okay.
I mean, now the comic comes out, and that's when I read his stuff for the first time.
Okay.
A lot of times. But before, we just talked about, I don't know, just like little kids going, hey, this next issue's gonna be fun. I get to draw this, I get to draw that. And he'd go, oh, okay. And then sometimes we'd call each other and then go, okay, you're carrying the issue. And you go, really? Why? And you go, because this is an information issue. This is just like nothing fun comes out of it. It's just information you need for the story, for the next story or whatever. And so we did that a lot. Like, okay, you're carrying the issue. And then sometimes we would go, you're carrying the issue. Oh, no, I'm not. But I don't know, maybe it's just a brother thing that we kind of connect through electrodes or whatever. But we just kind of understood it in the beginning. Like they said, we like the idea of the comic being two different worlds and two different artists. And we were like, are you sure? And they go, no, you guys complement each other. And I go, okay, that's all I need to know. So it was something we really never worried about. It was just kind of like, okay, we did all our fighting when we were kids. Now we just draw a comic next to each other. Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was like. I was like wondering. So I mean, that's perfect, because like like being brothers. I mean, you grew up together, so you all experience like these same moments at the same time. So you both have, you're experiencing making a comic together.
Yeah,
but from your own perspective. So it's like,
And when I mentioned how I had that big revelation from age 17 to 21, a lot of that was just talking to Gilbert about these things that we were into, whether it was film or comics or whatever. So we were always just talking about what we liked, what we were into, So yeah, Gilbert helped me a lot,
Excellent. Yeah, that's complimentary. That's definitely the better, like the word I was searching for. I had like just the same two sides of the same coin thing. That's, I'm like, how do I, what's the word for that? Complimentary. Yeah, that's exactly. Excellent. Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Send it back to Cosmic Lion there, you know.
Thank you, sir. Dr. B. All righty. All right, we've got our next question here. We've got Don Simpson here coming in.
Uh-oh. Hey, Don.
Yeah, let me unmute. Yeah, hi Jaime. It's been a few years.
Yeah.
I don't have a question for
Quite a
Katie
few.
except to say that I left comics to study art history. And the degree I have and $4 will get me a cup of coffee, as they say. I have a professional question for Jaime, which is I have this book here, just to name drop, and we're both in it.
There you
And
go.
I'm just wondering, I'm curious, what kind of grief did you get from Gary Groth?
Oh,
and
for doing that? No, but
Has he mellowed over the years?
oh, too
or
much. I kind of miss the fire, you know.
Was that because Kim's demise, or what?
No, I think he just age, you know, the years passing, and
Wife and
also
kids.
his enemies are all dead, you know.
Can you imagine anybody else? How has Fantagraphics influenced you guys, as opposed to if you had gone a more commercial route? If Chris Claremont had seen your samples and you had drawn penciled the X-Men for 15 years or something, can you even imagine that now, or is that?
I can't see it happening because I was just so I was just like a little Charlie Brown character going, I just want to draw comics. You know, when I took art classes in high school and junior college or whatever, it was always like, okay, I like what they're teaching me, but I just want to draw comics. You know, that was always my thing. And so it was always, I just want to draw my own comics. So when it was time to be a professional, I was like, well, I don't need to draw the X-Men, you know, they don't need me, kind of. I get to draw my own thing, you know. So it was never, I wasn't there's different artists, some artists who go, I just want to draw my favorite characters, right? That's fine. But for me, it was like, no, I want to draw my characters. You know, I had my own view.
So that need you didn't have that need anymore.
No, and you know, and it quickly went away of like, you know, if they gave me Wonder Woman, I would draw the best Wonder Woman comic ever. I just don't care anymore. You know, I'll draw. Okay, I'm not drawing Wonder Woman. I'll draw someone that like her for myself. You know, it's not like I miss out on anything. You know.
Okay, thanks. I'm just going to say that you were the only contemporary of mine that I really envied. When I saw Love and Rockets #2, it was like, oh man, this guy's doing everything. Yeah. Dinosaurs and rockets and beautiful. He spots blacks. He draws beautiful women. Just everything that I wanted to do.
I always liked your stuff.
Thanks a lot. And hello, Dr. Ben, and I'll shut up now. Thanks a lot, guys. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Don. Good to have you. All right, we're continuing down the road here. We've got Graham Miller. What's up, Graham? You are live on New Comic Book Day Night Live. I think you're muted though. Or no, you're not. Okay, he wanted to ask what each other of your favorite, what your favorite comics are from each other is what Graham wanted to know.
That's a good question.
I like anything Katie does. There you go. I think of a favorite book. Right now I'm liking Heaven, the one you're doing right now, but I think it's partly because I'm waiting for the next one.
I know.
You know.
He has a character in it that he likes, so he's kind of following her. I really love Browntown by Jaime. I love the Love Bunglers collection as a whole. I I think what's so remarkable about it is that it like walks these two paths of like this incredible romance story that's been happening for like 30 years, and then this like incredible tragedy. And I think it's just like this really sophisticated piece of writing where these two very extreme storylines can exist, and you don't come away from it feeling completely overwhelmed. You feel more this like appreciation of life, you know, like that horrible things happen and wonderful things happen, and sometimes completely mundane things happen, but they're all part of like the fabric of our existence, and these are stories that are worth telling. Like I think that that's so extraordinary, and the like cruelty of Browntown is only okay because it's matched by this incredible love story between Ray and Maggie. And you know, just even like from a logistic standpoint of like weaving all of those storylines together, I feel like trying to do something like that would make me insane. And it's also something that's like, you think about it as a concept and you're like, there's no way that this should work, and maybe even including these two things in one story is like offensive, you know, like maybe it would almost be too much, but that it works is so extraordinary. And then I also, literally any story with Vivian with the frog mouth, I adore. I love that character. She's my favorite. And I've been lobbying for more Vivian in the new stories, and occasionally we get some, so that works out.
Nice. All right, thank you. Graham, did you get any audio going or no? No, I guess not. All right, cool. Well, thanks for your question, dude. All right, next up, Tony Wolf, Cosmic Lion Productions published artist and creator. Here he is.
Hey. So first of all, thank you again for doing this, Katie and Jaime. This is pretty special. This is pretty special. So one quick thing for Katie and one quick thing for Jaime, if I may. Katie, I first became aware of your work going back to Nurse, pretty far back. And I was just curious, did you do short form stuff or self-published prior to Nurse, or what was that kind of journey?
Sort of, kinda. I wanted to do a serial really badly. I wanted to do one mini comic and like keep putting them out and like do a whole story. But before that, it was just like me trying to figure out what that story was. So there would be like one issue of something. And then when you do one issue, it's like, oh shit, I have to do like issue 2. And then I just like wouldn't get around to it or whatever. But Nurse was like when I could really focus, because I started that right after I graduated college. So yeah, that was like my first, like I got a job and like I have a comic, like everything is coming together, you know, the plan is working.
And just out of curiosity, do you find that the arts job that you've worked has been like a good support and like a steady lifeline, or has it been more annoying at times? Or
it's a mix. It depends where you're at, and it also like kind of depends on like what stage of life you're at, you know, because like in my 20s, it's like I have a job in New York, like when it's the weekend, I don't want to be at home drawing comics. Like I want to be partying. I want to like be out and about. So that was like kind of really the only friction, was like figuring out what I was going to do with my free time. And eventually like comics is kind of one, but I got really good at like working on the comics before I had to go to work, like 5 a.m. to like 8 a.m.
Wow.
So I like love doing that, because it was like I'm the only person I know that's awake and no one's bothering me, and like it's just me and the pigeons. And like,
yeah,
you know, that was cool. And I still like, when I think about, you know, how should I be working, I always think about that time, because I'm like, I was the happiest working then, you know, and like it just felt really good. So I need to get back to waking up super early. But yeah, that was it depends, but for the most part, like all of the skills that I learn doing different jobs, I always find other use for them in doing comics, you know, like working in digital marketing for a long time is, you know, you figure out like, well, how do I want to like express myself on social media? Like, how do I do this in a way that, you know, reflects like my actual self, and I don't have to feel like a weird person? Because those kinds of strategies are the ones that always ultimately work, right? So there was that. I was a docent for a long time. So that was when I really learned how to talk about art to like the
Wow.
general public. It's one thing to be like, I'm doing my thesis, people are listening to me, they want to hear like all about, you know, Egon Schiele, and they want to know like what time you woke up and ate breakfast. There's another thing when you're just like, I'm taking a group through a gallery and like, what do they care about? How much stuff costs? And who owns it? Like those are the two things that everybody wants to know. So when you learn how to like communicate that, and then also learn like, okay, what are the things that like are the key points of this piece that like everybody needs to know? Like when you walk away from this piece, like what do I want you to know? What does a curator want you to know? So that was major. And then I learned how to talk about my own work in that same way, you know, just
Right.
being like, how, I don't know, being able to explain concepts, complicated things, you know, you can really do a lot just with the language that you use around your own work. So for me, it's been great. And I also, you know, I wanted to live in New York. I wanted to live in LA. I wanted to be able to travel. I needed to have like a regular salary to do that. And thankfully, like one of the really good things that came out of the pandemic was the ability to work from home. I still do that now, which is really, really nice. I don't feel that same stress,
Right.
but I also don't really feel that pressure. So I'm a little bit slower now is the only thing, but maybe that's
Uh-huh.
the best. My doctor likes it. They like that I don't have like a crazy like heart or anything anymore. So it's getting better.
And as a quick sidebar, I do mostly all autobio comics or journalism comics. But when I started, I literally, and I've said this in some talks, I went out of my way not to be like, I'm gonna do sullen dating stories, or I'm like, because I saw that. I was like, I've read better. I've read that. Like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
So I purposely stayed away from like pissed off, anxiety ridden, you know, like we've read it.
Right on.
Jaime, my question for you, since you have such a simpatico with your brother, was it hard to select the title between the two of you of Love and Rockets? It's very elegant and simple. And the fan in me is like, you wanted to draw spaceships, aka rockets, and you wanted to write about love. But what is the answer? And did you go through other titles?
Gilbert, when we were planning to print our own comic, Gilbert would draw mock covers. He would just really fast pencil, and he'd give them weird titles. And he came to me and Mario and said, you know, which one do you like? And we just saw, out of all the titles, we saw Love and Rockets, and we just go, that one. I mean, it was that simple, you know.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, you know, and that was the title. It didn't make me think about, because of the title, I have to draw stories about this or that. That didn't matter. It was just a title. It was just kind of, I don't know, Zap Comics.
Yeah, it can be an abstract thing.
Yeah. And so, you know, a lot of people said, you know, you got rid of a lot of the rockets. You know, where are the rockets? It's called Love and Rockets. And I'll just go, yeah, I got to draw the next issue. Okay, bye. You know?
Right. There's metaphorical rockets of emotion exploding.
Yeah, you feel it in your heart.
Gilbert was trying to find the balance, you know, and
also, I was surprised more than one band named themselves after the series, not just the one, right?
Really? No, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I thought I looked something up earlier today because I knew we would be having this talk, and there was that band, but the Wikipedia says that several other bands also took that name.
Wow.
Like less successful bands, more
Sure.
obscure bands.
Wow.
But I mean, when you found out a band named themselves after you, what was that? Was it like someone getting a tattoo? Was it like, oh, okay, cool?
No, in this case, it was, we were a little insulted because they took our name. That was us. You know, it was, we were Love and Rockets. And then the band just goes, no, we're Love and Rockets. I mean, that's the way it felt, you know. And it was like, well, no, you know, but we didn't do much about it, you know,
Hmm.
because they were already recording, I think, when they took the name,
Right.
you know. But
Okay.
you know,
Right. There was no legal challenge or anything.
no, we couldn't
Yeah.
afford lawyers, you know.
Right.
So we just wish that they would break up eventually, and then they do break up, and then I think they're doing a show right now.
Mm.
They're doing a tour right now.
Right.
Oh well.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the questions.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Tony. There was a similar situation between the band Arrested Development and the TV show Arrested Development, where there was a legal thing, because Arrested Development, the band, was like, this is our whole thing. It's more than just a band. It's like our whole ethos. And this show is doing something different. And I guess they filed out of court. They solved it out of court because I did a project on them, because I'm a huge fan of the band and I like the show too. But like, you know, it really was, like you're saying, it was more than just the name of the book. It was like this whole kind of feeling that you were creating.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna ask a question from chat real quick, and then we'll get to you, Zach. All right. There is a question from Lee from Malaysia, who's at work right now. So shout out Lee. But he says, as a creative couple, is there any plans to start a project together?
And you want to talk about the stuff you've edited?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've edited the book Queen of the Ring, the book of wrestling drawings that came out in 2021 from Fantagraphics. I've edited a zine for Jaime that's like convention drawings that he'll sell occasionally at shows. So I like being on that side of it for right now, because you know, I still have that art historical perspective where I'm like, the work needs to be archived, it needs to be presented and published. And I'm really proud of Queen of the Ring, especially because it's right now, it's like the most affordable art book of Jaime's work. You know, like, you know, the art of Jaime Hernandez is humongous and expensive. And if you're a fan, this is a way to look at the process really up close and enjoy it. And things like that make me feel really proud. I'm actually, I started publishing other work. I started my own little imprint recently. So that's been very cool. But yeah, I mean, I always talk about like writing a story for Jaime, because I know that there are things that I could write that I wouldn't necessarily want to draw, like a lot of cars and a lot lot of perspective and like motorcycles.
Did you say
and stuff.
cars?
Yeah, I did. You're good at
like
cars.
I love to draw cars.
You, but I don't want to do it. So it's like, you know,
Yeah.
he's good at it, and
Yeah, but the thing is, I hate drawing cars, but I've got this Southern California mentality where my characters all have to drive to where they're going. So they're always in cars. And I'm like, I did it again. I put them in a car. So I have to make up a stupid car.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you want? Do you want to do something sometime?
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Do you want me to write for you?
That would be cool. Yeah, I'm down for that. I just would never like, I'm not trying to like hurt my own feelings. So like I would never put my artwork like next to yours. I just feel like,
Aw.
no, I'm like, I want to have a happy life. So I'm just going to keep those things separate. You know?
Yes.
But I would love that. But it's also just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like even if we don't necessarily like have a product, we talk about art all the time. We talk about the comics we love all the time. We talk about what we love in each other's work all the time. You know, I try to get more Vivian in Jaime's comics. He tries to get more of his character Jen in my comics. Like even if it's not necessarily like something you could definitively point to, like there's a lot of cross contamination, which is good, or cross pollination, I guess I should say.
Yes. Oh man, he's saying like, how could he get those zines and art books over in Malaysia? And would you ever come over there?
All I gotta do is invite me. Line me up, put me up. I'm there.
All right, Lee, get on that, bud. All right, thank you so much. And Lee thanks you as well. He said, woohoo, my question just created history live. We got an exclusive there.
Mhm.
Alrighty, next to you, Zach.
All right, is my mic working?
It is.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Just to add to that last part, at least Jaime's not writing scripts that have horses in them. Yeah, because the only thing worse than drawing cars is horses. So, question.
I draw less horses than I draw cars.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so question for kind of both of you, building off of what Katie was talking about earlier, where when she was getting into the industry and getting into comics, there was a lot of autobio and memoir stuff going on. And it was like a lot less genre work being done, and now we're kind of seeing that changing. A lot of people are doing more independent genre work, which is great. We need more of that. And then obviously, I mean, when you were getting into the industry in the 80s, and there was the black and white indie boom going on, and it was this really exciting time where there's a lot of people creating and doing it on their own terms and not having to go through the big publishers. It's kind of a dual question, but there's a lot of talk right now about how poor the industry is and the shape the industry is in, and it's like, well, what's the industry anymore? Like, is the industry DC and Marvel? I mean, what is the? I mean, like, people forget that manga are comic books. People forget that independent publishers like Fantagraphics and Drawn and Quarterly are still around doing their thing. So I guess my question for both of you is more, where do you see the industry now, and where do you see the medium now? Because I think the medium is probably the healthiest it's ever been in terms of the variety of content, the variety of stories being told, the variety of creators that are getting their work out there. But I just wanted to hear it from you two.
I feel like it's become a lot more viable in the last few years to do short work, and it can take you further than a longer piece, like putting together a huge graphic novel. For example, the publisher Silver Sprocket out of San Francisco is putting out really amazing, a lot of times like shorter form work. And I think the reality is that because it's really difficult to get a living wage from comics, let alone like a wage from comics sometimes, it's not as realistic to be able to like squirrel away and do a really long book. I think it's a lot more accessible for people to do like 20, 30 pages and put that out. But I don't see the interest waning at all. Like, I feel like people's attention spans are kind of shifting to fit that too, because when you think about it, the way that we communicate about art now is so like brisk and it's fast, and like we're reacting to it right away. It's a lot more difficult to kind of unpack and like understand a graphic novel. So I think things getting smaller but having more of an impact is what I'm seeing.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, the industry, boy. I think about it a lot. Like, I mean, are Marvel and DC just drawing comics to sell their movies, or now? I mean, and that they're putting all their excuse me. See, I don't know this because I'm not in that part of the industry, but I noticed that they will hire really polished artists to do covers and not really care what's going on inside. And I'm saying, I'm not talking about the fans who buy it and love it and stuff. I'm talking about the company. Like, are they like, oh, we're putting all the money into this great painter or this, great artist. And well, what's on the inside? Oh, the usual guys, and it just seems that way. And they're just keeping it seems to me like they're just keeping it afloat to help the movies, and like I said, I'm not talking about how the fans feel about it. I'm just thinking how it seems the way the business is run. And it's just a lot of it is a mess, it seems, when I talk to people about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's why I say draw your own.
Yeah. I mean, and history's proven you right. I mean, look what's happened. Look what happened to Jack Kirby. Look what happened to Steve Ditko. Look what happened. I mean, anybody that goes in and creates for those companies, they're gonna get screwed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, someone brought up recently how they said, "Do you realize Jack Kirby never got a break?" And I go, "The guy who created most of this stuff,
Yeah.
and yet he was treated like dirt from all the companies that he worked for, that he jumped to back and forth."
Yeah.
Anyway, well, when I'm but I'm the fan who looks at the artist. I don't look at the company.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and appreciate your input.
Thank you, Zach. All right, we'll move over to James Easterly. What up, James?
Hi, James.
All right, just want to make sure I'm getting my mic here. Hey, folks. First off, echoing everybody, thanks for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And Jaime, looking forward to you coming to Ann Arbor later on this year for A2 CAF. So I'm a bit of a process junkie. I love anything that can help inspire or spark a new idea or things of that nature. So I wanted to ask both of you, what are things you do today that help keep you on your toes, whether it be exercises that you have in your sketchbooks or things that you do that help keep the sort of imagination sharp, or like ways you pull things out still so that it feels fresh for you?
I love to draw fashion shows. I love to sketch. I love to like put on like the new Versace show and draw from that. Like what inspires me, like what colors do I think are cool? What like shapes do I think are cool? And just like kind of seeing this like excessive motion. I feel like it's easy to like think about your characters kind of standing around. It's harder to think about them in motion and like the way their clothes would move and like how one hip would go up and then the shoulder goes down. So it's like it's almost like this kind of rapid fire like figure drawing thing. I like doing that a lot. And I just like trying to take in new stuff. I like reading new novels. I like trying to see new films, new music, just like check the vibes. You have to check the vibes.
Me, I pretty much just think of it like, whoa, Maggie's in a slump. Boy, is she boring lately. What can she do to spice things up that I'll have fun drawing? It's usually just that, like I gotta get off my ass and make this fun. Just by thinking that's how I do it, because it's just if I'm not having fun, I don't want to do it. So I just kind of try to keep it fun, and where I'm going to enjoy it more than anybody. I don't really have exercises to do it. I just sometimes I just walk away from the drawing board, and just go do something that's not completely not related, whether it's folding laundry or something, but it's just kind of like I've got to be in a mood, and I got to get myself in a mood, and I don't have a set way of doing it. I've relied for a long time on okay, I'm going to sit at the drawing board today. It's going to inspire me, right? And then it doesn't. And so I go, tomorrow it will. Tomorrow, and I think I'd be faster if I kind of took more steps at getting to the drawing board, but no, it's just this organic feeling, that I just kind of, it has to come. I can't make it come, and it's gotten me in trouble sometimes where I go, I've realized 4 months have passed of me thinking about the comic and not doing the comic, so I'm I try, but I rely on it, just this natural process, like it's in the air, kind of thing. Doesn't always work, but it's helped me for the most part.
I really dig that. Again, thank you for being here, and thanks for answering my question. Thank you, Eli.
Of course. Thank you, James. Excited to see you next weekend, man. All righty. Oh, you're muted, but I'm sure you sent fond sentiments. All right. Next up, we have Adam Lemna, whose brand new book, Relic Hunter, just dropped into the mail yesterday for all the pre-orderers.
Sword and sorcery, barbarian stuff. Really fun. I'm a huge fan. Like, it's kind of surreal talking to you because, like, when I was a teenager in the 90s, like, I would go to my local comic shop and, like, in the back of the shop was where they kept, like, quote unquote adult comics. So it was like Savage Sword of Conan and Vampirella and Love and Rockets and D&D stuff, and like that's like where I hung out. And like getting a chance to talk to you now really just kind of like blowing my mind. Like 15-year-old me is like, yeah. So I mean, I've read so many articles with you and I feel like you've done so many interviews. It's like, what question can I ask you that hasn't already been answered out there? And I really want to know more about you than just like your work. So like, what is a comic that is like your most secret, like you don't tell anybody that you're a fan of this comic, but you're a huge fan of this comic? What is that book for you?
I pretty much say what I've liked.
Oh, you don't have like no guilty pleasure comics?
Oh no, because if I like it, it's not a guilty pleasure.
Well, I like that. That's a great answer. Yeah.
Kind of. It's not so much someone else's comic, but when Katie talked me into doing Queen of the Ring, I felt a little like my privacy was being invaded, and because those drawings were for myself. They were my personal little fun things, and so that was kind of like, okay, here we go. This was never meant to be to be edited or out there I didn't do this for anyone but myself. So that one was a little bit like I was a little nervous that people wouldn't connect.
Wow, that's so crazy because that's such a gorgeous book and such an amazing, like, I love the art in it so much. And I was such a huge wrestling fan for so long. So like seeing that is like, that's like one of my favorite things is to see wrestling comics. And I loved seeing you do that because you have such a connection to that. And I think that that's something, it felt personal on the page. And it's cool to hear that that was also like vulnerable for you as well, to put that out there. And Katie, what about you? Do you have like a secret? I love reading, like whatever.
I love Kathy. I love what Kathy gets into. I relate to Kathy, and it makes me question a lot of things about life.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
I love her. She had a baby, and that was a big deal when she had a baby in the
Kathy
strip.
did, or
Kathy had a baby. Oh no, Kathy. I don't know if Kathy, guys. Wait, I don't know what her.
No.
I don't know anything about her life. I've tried to get her on our podcast so many times. She has like 20 agents, and they never get back to me. So I'm gonna keep trying with Kath, but I think she's like got better things to do, and I totally get it. But Kathy had a baby in the strip, and it was a really big deal, and I was so excited about it. And I did a bunch of drawings of Kathy as Rosemary, and her baby was like the Antichrist. And I really want to
Amazing.
out somewhere, but I feel like that was a cultural moment that I celebrated alone. Nobody else cared that Kathy was having a baby.
I
And I was
love
like,
that though.
"Oh,
That's
it's
such a
so
perfect
funny."
like, liking, Dennis the Menace and Cat, like those are great just like strips that go like forever. So it's really awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam. All right, you guys, we have about 7 minutes left. Do you mind going maybe 10 or so over just to get everybody's questions in?
Sure.
All right, cool. Just had to ask. All righty, let's go over to George.
Thanks,
What's up,
Eli.
George?
Good to see you. Thanks for putting this together. This is awesome, and I'll try to be quick. Eli knows I'm a big fan of comics and music colliding. So first off, wanted to say, hopefully this shows up how much I love this design hunting you did for my pal Lydia. But also wanted to ask, as comics and music lovers, if you have any favorite comic and music crossovers. Could be an album cover that someone in the comics world did, or a comic book that had music somewhere, some way, shape, or form in the comic.
I remember when I was a young teenager, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer put out a record, Brain Salad Surgery, with H.R. Giger art. And I just remember going, this art is cool. I didn't know who it was then, but at first, because this was the early 70s. But I just remember going, this guy's a good artist. And I didn't know who he was till later, And then when Alien came out, I go, oh, now he's no longer a secret, But let's see, that was one. I remember there was a really early on when I was like 10 or something, my brother bought us Steppenwolf album, and they had art in the back, and they said, my brothers go, oh, that's what's his name, and it was an underground artist, but I never knew who it was, who drew on it. I don't know, stuff like that. I fell in love with Raymond Pettibon, who did the Black Flag art and stuff, but I didn't know who he was. But I remember on a Black Flag record, it said, buy this comic, send $2 to, this and that. And I didn't have $2. But anyway, can you think of?
Well, Junko Mizuno did a book called Pure Trance in the 90s, and it's a longer, I think it might be her longest comic. And it's about these future nurses that are like growing different animals to like eat them, and then like doing plastic surgery on themselves. And it's just like really gross and so cool. And it was meant to go along with the Trance album. So it was like, you read this comic and you time it with the CD, but I never had the CD until much later, and I heard it and I was like, this sucks so bad. I'm so glad I didn't like, and I love Junko Mizuno, but I was just like not my thing. So I'm really glad that didn't happen, because I think I might have been turned off.
This is great. I had no idea Giger did an Emerson, Lake and Palmer album art. So I'm taking notes from both of you.
Such a good album. That was my first concert ever, was Emerson, Lake and Palmer. With
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What tour?
It was 1995, and I was 10, and it was them and Jethro Tull.
Wow.
Nice.
I saw, my parents were a little bit of hippies. I saw Arlo Guthrie when I was like 2, but I don't remember it. But yeah,
neither does anyone else that was there.
George, you got to check that album out. It's so good.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, man, thank you. All right, we're gonna go back to Rick, who's gonna round us out with this on the night here. Rick Lopez, who I want to send a huge shout out to. He organized this. We got to meet Jaime and Katie at the Permanent Damage rock show and comic show, and Rick chatted and got the emails and set this all up for everyone. So make sure you guys send some love over to Rick. And hey, buy his comic.
Thanks again so much, Katie. Thank you, Eli. I really appreciate that, dude. Thanks again, Katie. Thank you so much, Jaime. I was telling Jaime about this when we were at Permanent Damage, because it was kind of like the craziest story. I mean, like, I was born in '89, so I wasn't around to like pick Love and Rockets off the shelf or anything like that, but like maybe like a decade ago now, I'm buying books off of eBay, and the seller ends up sending me a stack of these. I get like the first 6 of them or so, and at the time I have no fucking clue what I'm seeing. And you seriously, like, you changed my life, dude. I just have to throw that out there, because it's like there's not a day that doesn't go by I don't think about Kirby, Daniel Klaus, or Jaime Hernandez. Like, all the time, whenever I'm working on stuff, you guys are constantly in my thoughts. And it's, I don't know, just how I came across it was fucking crazy, first of all. And I just want to thank you for all the work you've done. Thank you for your time, man. Seriously. And one of my favorite movies of all time is Comic Book Confidential. And I would love to hear about just your involvement with that, how that all came about. You know, I know you didn't make it, but I'd love to hear how you're approaching everything.
Well, I remember we were contacted that said, this guy is making he's making a documentary on comics, and he's going to be at the San Diego Con, and I remember going, oh, okay, well, nobody asked me. and then I remember like Linda Berry and people like that were did it at the show. They took them to a private room and they did their thing. And then later on, they told me that they were going to be in LA and they were going to get our local artists to meet up at this one place and the studio, and we were just going to be interviewed and stuff. So we did a whole, me, Mario, and Gilbert did a whole interview, and then they had us draw and then read from our comics. And mine was the only one they kept. So a lot of people thought Love and Rockets was just me, but it was okay. But I just remember not understanding, like, why are you making me do this? What? I didn't know what was going on,
That's so cool.
And I just remember Sergio Aragones was there, also being interviewed. They never used his.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah. And Gilbert read from his comics too, and they didn't use it. But and I did it in one take, which surprised me, because they just go, find something you want to read, and then we'll go from there. And I remember just looking while they were setting up the cameras. I was just looking through all my comics, going, what am I going to read? Okay, I'll do this one. And then he goes, okay, go. And then I just started reading from it, and it was like,
that's great.
I keep messing up here. Can we do a retake? Kind of thing. And so anyway, it worked out, but
Yeah, you sold yourself really well on that one. You're really endearing in that. It's like, yeah, I like this a lot. This is fine. I found that one afterwards, and yeah, I like your spot's really great in that one. But thank you again so much, Jaime. And as for Katie, thank you again so much too. And I haven't heard you talk so much about it, but I know how influential it must have been. But tell me a bit about what it was like with your dad's newsstand growing up.
Well, I mean, he would bring comics home, and that was just like so major. And then when I got older, I was working at the newsstand, so I was just constantly like surrounded by publications, and that felt so, I don't know, it felt important. It was like, this is enough that like my dad does this and like makes a living on it, and like, you have to like sell ideas. And in this way, like constantly looking at magazines and looking at comics and all of these things just like honed something in me and like made me really want to tell stories. And I think that was a big part of it. I did not like working at the newsstand though. I was very anti working there, but I liked all the books for sure.
And say he also owned the bar next door.
And he owned the bar next door.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so all these drunk people would come in and I would be there like 13, like, what do you want from me? Like, I hated it. I really hated it. But it also like inspired me because I was like, okay, every like week that I'm here living at home, I have to work at the newsstand. Like, I have to find a job and like get out. Like, I have to figure this out.
Right.
So, and I haven't returned to the newsstand since. So everything is going really good.
Well, congratulations on staying out of the newsstand. Thank you again both so much. Seriously, it was a great time and I appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, man.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. All right, so that'll do it for this week. But before we go, I do want to give Jaime and Katie a second to do some plugs and tell us what you're working on now, where we can find more about your stuff, and if you got a new book or something coming out. So go ahead, take it away.
Okay, I'll go first. The next issue of 11 Ruckus, number 14. That's
it's coming to newsstands now, so add it to your pulls, everyone.
Talk to me, in a couple of years, and I'll say, "Oh, we're working on number 18." But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I don't have any other plans to do anything outside because I'm getting, older and not wanting to do like someone wants me to do a cover and I'm like no I'll pass or something, but yeah, that's it for me. Nothing exciting, but I'm wrapping up 2 major stories, and whichever one finishes first will be the next collection. That's it was supposed to be this year, but we just slowed down a lot, and I haven't finished wrapping up these storylines. Now, Katie.
I'm finishing a book right now, so that won't be out until 2025, I think. So I have she's mad about it. I'm working on that. You can always find me on my show, which is called Thick Lines Podcast. I co-host that with my friend Sally Madden, who's also a really great cartoonist. And I'm editing a body horror anthology that's going to be coming out in October through the imprint that I'm working on. But you can keep up with all my stuff on my Instagram, which is at my last name 3 times, Skelly.
All right, awesome. And someone asked in the chat, they said, is it pronounced viscere?
Viscere.
Viscere.
It's the, like Italian word for bowels.
Ooh.
It is.
Thanks for talking me.
And that'll be available for everyone, not just Kickstarter people.
Yes, in October.
Okay, perfect. All right, sweet. So on behalf of everyone here, I just again want to say thank you to Jaime and Katie. Thank you to Rick for getting this all set up. And as I say every month, don't just read more comics, be more comics. That's it for New Comic Book Day Night Live. Until next time.
Good night.